20 minutes or so. So,
Perfect.
because I want it to be high impact, powerful, amazing.
Great.
Yeah, I feel like I should put a ball cap on.
Here, let me check my Wi-Fi
So,
here, make
so
sure I'm good.
okay. You guys good? Let me be sure this is recorded.
All right.
All right, you guys ready? You guys ready to rock and roll?
Fired up.
Okay, good. Oh my gosh. So for those of us who are joining us live, Mike Schindler here with the Military Wire. Excited, absolutely excited to have Brian Andrews, Jeff Wilson back with me again on the Military Wire. They got another new book, and if you guys are not familiar with these guys, I'm going to read their bio on the back. So both Navy veterans, so the world's greatest Navy. We share that in common. Far better writers than I am. Every book that they write grabs me, pulls me in. But let me tell you about these guys. So they're the writing team behind the Wall Street Journal, Audible, and #1 Amazon best-selling Tier 1 series, which has been optioned for television. We want to dive into that just briefly, before we talk about this. So Brian, I think is like the super smart one. He's like the nuclear engineer. He's the Park Leadership Fellow, served as an officer on a fast attack submarine. And then Jeff was a super smart one too, vascular surgeon and a jet pilot. I don't even know how you do that. I don't know how you do both. That's just crazy. So, and you served with one of the SEAL teams based in covert operations task force stuff. So, you guys, Sons of Valor, the Shepherd series, I got to jump in here and just say the Shepherd series kind of freaked me out a little bit because that was really this whole thing between good and evil, like the spiritual warfare thing, which we can briefly touch on that. But guys, the new book, 4 Minutes. This took me some time to read only because this was like a math problem for me. So, welcome to the show. But let's talk about this 4 minutes. Like, give some background. Like, first of all, tell our audience how the two brainiacs connected, #1, and then how you kicked off the Tier 1 series because that's an amazing series. And then let's jump into the 4 minutes book that's coming out in April. So, fire off. I want to
Great.
start with you, Brian.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for having us on the show. And it's a pleasure to be back. We love the show. We love talking with you and letting your audience know everything that we've got cooking. We'll quickly give a little background. Jeff and I are both Navy veterans, like you said, but we met at a writers' conference, which is sort of crazy. We were publishing and writing independently, and we became fast friends, typical Navy, like, you find each other in this room. You don't even realize that you're both Navy, and you start talking, and we hit it off. We have same values, same interests. So a partnership was something that I think we maybe didn't think about when we first met, but we're in between books, and I sort of corralled Jeff into co-authoring with me, even though he was maybe a little skeptical at first. But now here we are, like 24 books later, and it's pretty amazing. I think we both agree that if we hadn't teamed up, we certainly wouldn't have had this level of productivity or success. So it really is a testament, sort of this Navy slogan of mission and team before self, and we are a force multiplier working together. So yeah, that's kind of our quick and dirty, like how we started working together. And then Jeff, you want to like give them the elevator pitch on 4 minutes?
Yeah, so 4 minutes was first of all, just because you read our rather eclectic backgrounds, right? So we have
Yeah.
diverse interests beyond just our core values and our core interest in covert ops and military action, which our Tier 1 and Shepherds even reflect. But because we are interested in many things technical and scientific, and like you pointed out, Brian is the brainiac, and we're always interested in new technology and sandbox. We have the artificial intelligence hook, and one of the things about covert operations that's always been the wild card is getting the right intelligence at the right time, right? So
Mhm.
the question that this book was born out of, and they're all come from a what if question, was what if there was some way to get intelligence about these events before they happen, like 9/11? What if we had known a month in advance. There's Brian likes to point out that there was always a lot of chatter in retrospect. Oh, there were signs that something was coming. Well,
Yeah.
sure, in retrospect, there always is, right? But how do you vet that out in real time? What if you had a crystal ball and you could say, look, this is an attack that's going to happen in 3 weeks. Here's where it's going to happen. We have 3 weeks to figure it out. And so we were interested in sort of the math and science of time and the physics of time travel, if it would be possible. But we didn't want to do something that was like, the DeLorean and going back to the Western times. We
Right.
wanted something that would be mathematically grounded, that would be something that's conceivable. And we think that we came up with that. So there's a lot of rules to this in our book. In our book, there is a time travel element, but you can only travel a short distance into the future, never into the past. And the hook is you can only stay 4 minutes. So at first blush, wow, 4 minutes in the future, we're going to know what's happening. We can fix it. But of course, in a typical Andrews and Wilson novel, it brings more problems than solutions. And so there's more to figure out than just how to glimpse into the future. So that's sort of the medium length pitch of the book. But it was a really, really fun to write because we were able to take our interest in quantum mechanics and physics and math and put it into, our typical covert operations action thriller. That was fun. That was exciting.
Well, and that was the cool part of the book too, because all the characters in the book still had personality, right? They still had their own drama. You still had this intrigue of what's going on with kind of the ringleader, and then there's this good bad element that's a part of this too, right? Because there's a reveal that happens through this. And I will say the math, like I would sit there and chew on a page. Like, I'm like, how does this really work? Like, I was trying to figure it out. And guys, seriously, it was so brilliant because then I had that aha moment. Like, I get it. And so you guys were really good at kind of breaking it down to a grade school level where I go, okay, that makes sense to me. Oh, wow. So I went off on rabbit trails on this book. Like in a big way. I started thinking, oh my gosh, I mean, what if we could? And then, I was like, well, maybe we already have the technology. I mean, you guys seem to write books that like, I think I saw this in a book. So
Yeah,
I'm just
we
waiting.
try to do that. We try to imagine if this technology did exist right now, and what would that pipeline look like? So, you probably noticed in the beginning of this book, we're bringing you into this R&D sort of framework that the technology for developing time travel sort of happened by accident. That's not what they were trying to do.
Right.
They were trying to develop a modular fusion reactor that they could move from base to base and have reliable, cheap power that doesn't have any nuclear waste. And when they fired this thing up, we sort of based it on this tokamak design, which has been around, is well known, but it produces these tremendous magnetic fields. And we thought, oh, what would be funny is if if they turned this thing on and it sent somebody, maybe the janitor or somebody, it sent him, into the future. He came back and he's like, guys, I was in the future. And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, let me tell you what happens. I saw this happen.
Yeah.
And so, we were laughing about that, imagining that scenario, and then it found its way into the book. And so, when you have these characters, Mike, you really hit on a key point. Like, these are real people, and we try to imagine what it would be like if you plucked, Tyler out of his job and Stan out of his job and Z out of her job, and you put together this task force Omega, that's going to do this time traveling operation, and they're going to respond not like somebody who's invented the technology. They're like being brought up to speed from the beginning themselves. So it feels a lot more fun and
Yeah,
organic
because
that way.
for them it's just a tool, right, Brian?
That's
Like
Yeah.
they're not the brainiac geek that is all into the technology and the math. They're just like, wow, that's a cool tool. Like, I could go there and do this thing. Awesome. And so that made it fun to write. Keeps it a little more character driven. But I like this idea of them stumbling on it that we came up with, because that's how it usually happens, right? Like, the guy out there finding the cure for this or that is usually trying to do something else, and there's a little bit of serendipity. So we thought that's how it would probably happen. There's probably not DARPA working specifically on time travel, but boy, they could sure be working on this modular nuclear reactor. That's realistic. And then it happens by accident. That was kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, and you guys say that because I know you have to say that, but DARPA probably is working on that. It's okay. I mean, but the other cool part about this too was the second and third order effects that you brought into it, which was like, hey, this is just not about time travel. I mean, this is about, impact to family. This is about impact to body. This is about impacted, potential future. I mean, it was incredibly well done. And for you guys to be able to think through those scenarios and pull the characters into those scenarios and even wrestle and show the mental wrestling that was going on, certainly the physical and mental wrestling that was going on, just very, very powerful. And I think that's really unique as far as how you guys are writers, is your characters in the story are just not trigger pullers, right? I mean, they actually have a story. And I think it's one of the joys I get from reading your books, is because I can relate to the character. I can find some character to relate to, let's put it that way. And I would say that even if you've never served in the military, there's something that you can relate to in this book. I mean, this book comes out in April of 2024. Brilliant book. If you're not a wizard on the math level, you'll figure it out because your writing style's so good. I mean, it did take me a little time. Like, I'm like, okay, this is a math problem.
But you don't have to be a science fiction fan, I think, to like this book. Would you agree?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the challenge too, is like we geeked out about river theory and all the stuff that we write about in the book. But the challenge as a writer is how to put that in there so that the other math geeks can get the stimulation and the mental exercise that we enjoyed, but the people that aren't interested in that can, still enjoy the story and the characters and the context. And so it really is a balancing act when you write techno thrillers, whether it's over explaining how a submarine works or talking about a speculative thing like time travel. I think that's where, as a writer, you work hard, is trying to find that balance where there's a little something for everybody and nobody is put off by not enough or too much, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I highly recommend this book. So I want to shift real quick and talk about your option for TV. What's going on with this, guys? You guys got a number of books out there. So you got something going on. Is this something you can talk about yet?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk a lot about a little about a lot of it. Let's put it that way, because one of the things that happens is with these deals is that none of the producers want to sort of reveal their hand and sort of make announcements until they're ready. So the way that a lot of this works in Hollywood right now is, the studios or producers, they want to package the project. So they want to have, screenwriters attached, director or showrunner, depending whether it's feature or television, and the talent. And so when you sell a project into Hollywood, whoever is the buyer, they're going to try to wrap that up. And so in the case of like Tier 1, for example, it's been optioned, but it's going to really matter who's going to be the showrunner for this and who would they cast to play John Dempsey. And so the vision, even though the Tier 1 characters and the story, there's a canon of the entire Tier 1 saga exists out there, we know that the showrunner that they hire, director, they're going to have their own vision, and the lead's going to have a take on the character. So there will be some changes. So what we can say is that in the case of Tier 1, it's option. We're in active discussions looking for those other pieces of the package right now to fill out what will Tier 1, the streaming series, look like.
Yeah. And it's if you've been to our website, anyone out there that follows us knows that it's actually one of 13 projects we now have in development in various stages of development for film and television. And some we can talk about more and some we can talk about less. But in general, these are all things that have been optioned. Some of them have already been scripted. Some of them already have, a director that's involved. Tier 1 is the most, not the most, but it's definitely one of the more exciting ones for us because that's where we started, right? That's our tentpole series. 4 Minutes has actually also been optioned for television as well. And we've got a couple of films in the works, some with us as screenwriters, all of them with as us producing. So a lot going on that side of our life since we last talked. Be careful what you wish for, I guess. You get busier and busier, but these are good problems to have, right? Absolutely good problems to have.
100%. I'm so excited to see how you guys have taken this and just kind of evolved it and continue to grow with it. And you just don't sit. That's the impressive thing. I mean, it's like, hey, we just did this amazing series, and now we're done. You're like, no, we're coming up with something else. We're gonna, 4 minutes. And I love the Dempsey series. I love that guy. I can't wait to read the next one. I mean, it's just you guys are brilliant. I mean, I look at some of the writers out there like Brad Taylor and you guys and how you guys just kind of pull people in and you go along this chain, but you keep the people real. And I think that's the piece that's also very intriguing about your books is yes, you've got characters that are out there fighting evil, right? Working to keep the world safe, but you're also revealing the struggle, what it takes to make that happen. And I think that's very, very powerful. Incredibly powerful. So how do people find you? How do they find you? How do they follow you? How do they get your stuff?
Well, one thing we want to let everybody know is we also have another big piece of news, which is that we are writing in the Tom Clancy Jack Ryan universe now. So Anders and Wilson has written
Really?
Jack Ryan number 24. It's called Act of Defiance. It is a book coming out on the 40th anniversary of the Hunt for Red October. So it's a big submarine book, imagining sort of what would a submarine engagement similar to Hunt for Red October look like 40 years later in today's modern Navy. So it's a big responsibility and a big honor to take over this mantle of writing Jack Ryan series. And you can find out more about it on our website, anders-wilson.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We will keep you informed of all of our new releases.
I will say, those of you that have been burned by newsletters before, as we all have, we don't spam you. If you sign up for our newsletter, in addition to getting some free content that we provide as an incentive, you're just going to find out what's going on with us. We don't share anybody's data. We don't send it to anybody else. There's no advertisers that pay us to. If you get a newsletter from us, it's just to tell you about a book we have coming out, when a TV show is going to premiere, where we might be appearing. So we try to keep it to just a few times a year, and it's just relevant stuff. So don't be afraid to click submit, because I know I am these days when I get invited. So I think most people will enjoy it.
Jack Ryan, that's a big deal. I mean, I remember when the movie came out, golly. And the book came out 40 years ago. That's scary because the
40
movie came
years
out
ago
in the
this
80s,
year.
right?
Yeah. 40 years ago this year. And I will say that about that book, it's obviously it's done because it comes out in May. But what was exciting about that book was we, on a whim, reached out to the Navy and said, one of the coolest things about Clancy was how he was able to engage with the real world military and get the support so that he could bring that research to the page and really reflect the men and women who were serving. And he never served. And so it was just amazing how he captured it. So we're the first Navy veterans, I believe, to write in this series, to write the Clancy books. So that's cool already. But we were like, I wonder if we can get that level of support. So we reached out to the Navy, and man, they were fantastic. The Navy empowered the communities we were interacting with to give us unfettered access. I'm actually wearing the Indiana hat right now, the USS Indiana. Got to go to sea aboard the fast attack submarine Indiana. We got to be aboard the Blackfish, the USS Washington. They flew us out to the Ford to do research, meet the crew and the skipper. And it was incredible. The Navy gave us access to these subject matter experts that allowed us to do what Clancy did so well, which is to take real world stuff, people, not as much the machines as the people, and say, this is what your sailors and airmen and soldiers are doing for you right now, today, out on the pointy tip of the spear. That was the greatest joy of writing that book, I can tell you.
Wow, how cool. What an honor. What an honor. And I mean, so well deserved. I mean, you guys are
Oh,
brilliant riders. You guys are seriously, I mean, you serve the world's greatest Navy, which to my audience, you all know that that is the best branch out of all the branches. Although we love each other, but we all know. But you guys are just exceptional. You guys are phenomenal. Always love having you on the show. Excited that you got another book coming out. I'm going to have to track on that one. We might even have to have you back on to talk about that
We
one.
love
I
it.
mean, but for our audience today, be sure that you keep an eye out for 4 Minutes. Sign up for their newsletter so that you're tracking with this. This thing comes out in April 2nd, I believe. Is that correct? April?
Yeah,
yeah,
next week.
next week.
Yeah, next week. Hard to believe it's already April. But guys, again, website so that they can track you and sign up. What is that again?
Andrews-Wilson.com. Super easy.
Wonderful. Any last remarks for the audience before we sign off?
Hey, come see us in Nashville. If you're in the Nashville area, we're doing a book signing. You have to go to our website because I don't really remember all the stuff we're doing. But if you go to our website, there's going to be something about being in Nashville on the second. I know the third, something like that, to do a book signing in the area. We'll be in that area again for a Seal Legacy event in Nashville. And if you're in the Norfolk area, May 21st, we're going to be at Nauticus. If you're familiar with Norfolk, Nauticus is a huge place, and you can get more information about that appearance on our website too. That's going to be a big one. It'll be us
Mm,
and a bunch of Navy guys hanging out, talking about Clancy and books. So yeah, go to the website. It's all there.
it's really cool. Again, guys, thank you. Thank you for being on the show. Totally grateful to you both.
We're always here for you, my friend. Good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
You betcha. Guys, loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah, good
perfect
job as
interview.
always,
Thank you.
man. Yeah. So they're always so easy when it's you.
I mean, it's you guys are great. I love this stuff. It's so good. I think some of the guys on YouTube are still being able to watch this, which is fine. They'll get some of the